Right, now, one thing we're going to be adding to our plate is, now that we've gotten into October and we are less than a month away from really starting to get the official rankings releases from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, it is going to be taking a look at the college football playoff picture. If you follow us on the socials, you've seen that Bud Elliott has been putting together his college football playoff projections each and every week and sharing that with you. But there's also, let's dive into the talking points here. Bud, as you look into your crystal ball, what's really stood out in terms of the CFP picture moving forward?
Yeah, so every week when I run my model, it kind of gives me something a little bit different. But this time I had 6 SEC teams making it and none of them getting a bye, which kind of reflects, I think, what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of good SEC teams. SEC is very clearly the deepest conference this year. It has like the best top half, but I don't think it has the best top, right? We're seeing Ohio State and Oregon look really good so far this year. I think Texas Tech and Miami will go undefeated. And I really don't think if Oregon and Ohio State get to the Big Ten championship game undefeated, that either of them will be punished for playing in that game by having them lose a bye. So I have the SEC champion not getting a bye in this scenario, but I do have the SEC getting 6 teams in because I think the Big 12 and the ACC are and should be one bid leagues if those favorites hold serve.
You think there's some outrage there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least based on what we've seen on social media, but I don't see how a 2-loss Bama, if they're the SEC champion, how they would have a resume over a 12-1 loser of the Big Ten championship game.
Unless they've got more wins against teams ranked in the committee's top 25.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could reverse engineer with a bunch of SEC teams between 15 and 25 that aren't going to make the playoff. We could see some 7-5 teams inside that final top 25 to justify decisions made at the top.
I don't think you're going to go 7-5. Yeah, no. I would buy 8-4. They might sneak an 8-4 in, but I don't think a 7-5. An 8-4 Florida, I think probably.
Did you say 6 SEC teams or 5?
6.
There's zero chance 6 are getting in.
I mean,
it's not as impossible as you think.
I think it's very possible. Yeah. Have Michigan screw around and lose a game it shouldn't, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, here's one thing we didn't discuss. With Penn State losing this weekend, I still believe in Indiana, but there's the chance now that the Big Ten only gets 2 teams in. If Indiana falters, they get absolutely beaten down by Penn State because they do have to play Penn State and they lose to somebody else, I could see that happening. What I'm not nearly as confident on though is the SEC not getting one of the buys. In my projection, in my 5 check this week, I had Alabama as the 3 seed because I just feel like if they do go 11-2 and they win the SEC, and there are 5 SEC teams in the field or maybe 6, they have played Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma. Odds are those teams would be in the field, and odds are Alabama would have beaten them. They've already beaten Georgia and Vanderbilt. So I just feel like with the way that they've rejiggered it, and we don't know how it's going to look yet because we haven't seen their ranking yet. So this new SOS metric that they're putting in, which the SEC was, clamoring for because they always have the higher SOS. I feel like that would probably earn the SEC champion if they go 11-2 a bye, no matter what, even if the Big 12 champion's undefeated, or even if the ACC champion's undefeated, or if Oregon or Ohio State are sitting there at 11 or 12-1 because they lost the Big Ten title game. The way that this committee has worked, I just have a difficult time not seeing them give the SEC a bye, even if it's a 4 seed.
I totally agree as far as how it gets rigged. I have a hard time building that in the model. But who do you see them leaving out of those 4? So undefeated Miami, undefeated Tech, undefeated Big Ten champion.
Undefeated Tech. I mean, look what they did to the Big 12 last year.
They would hump a 2-loss SEC team over a 12-0 Big 12 team?
Yeah.
Or a 13-0 Big 12 team?
Iowa State, Arizona State, the Big 12 champion last year, was ranked behind 3-loss Alabama.
Yeah, but they had how many losses?
They had 2.
Right.
We're talking about 13-0.
But if Texas Tech goes undefeated, what's its best win?
Probably smashing Utah.
But is Utah ranked?
Yeah, I think Utah will easily be ranked.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if you compare
they would treat them like Cincinnati. They would treat them like 2022 Cincinnati.
Like, there's a very good chance
Or
that they've only got
2021
1 or 2
Cincinnati. I
wins
got my
over
years
ranked
wrong on
teams.
that.
That was
And they
still
might be in the
power
20s.
league versus non-power league, right?
Yeah, but we don't know how this SOS metric's going to work, and
That's
I'm
fair.
guessing that the Big 12 is going to be on the lower end of it.
Oh, it definitely will. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Has the model started to look at who Miami might be playing in Charlotte?
Yeah, there's a lot of Georgia Tech and UVA there.
Yeah.
Just because the path is so easy.
And maybe Duke too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Duke, man, they finally were able to get away from those tough non-conference games against Illinois and Tulane, get into that nice, soft, cushy ACC schedule, start looking like a juggernaut again.
A lot of Miami fans think that Miami's going to have an argument to be number one, and I don't think that's going to be the case because I don't think they have the wins down the stretch to carry that for the committee. And whoever they play in Charlotte is not going to be anywhere near as good as the team that the Big Ten team is going to play in Indy.
Yeah,
Miami does not need to cry right now about seeding. They need to win games after October 31st because Mario Cristobal from November on at Miami is 4-10. And I know you're going to tell me that, hey, one of those was a 5-7 year. One of those was a 7-5 year. But I'm just saying that 1-3, 1-4, 2-3 as your records from November 1st on over the first 3 years. Finishing strong is the number one opponent for Miami right now.
But you know why Mario's record is so bad in November, right?
Oh, please.
Where does he go on Halloween? An escape room. Going back, like we talked about the Big Ten maybe only getting 2 teams, and I still think they get 3. I think Indiana's going to get through enough to where they're going to be the 3rd. But I'd like to know where you guys are on this. Who's your 4th team in the Big Ten right now after Penn State loses to UCLA?
Talk to me after USC Michigan.
Michigan.
Winner of USC Michigan. I'll come out of that feeling like they are up in the mix.
I think Michigan's odds are like more than double of USC's to make the playoff.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'll have more on it upon further review.
Ooh, that's a professional tease if I've ever heard one.
I might still back USC, but the path might be easier.
Well,
Michigan.
USC was off last week. They're home against Michigan. They're at Notre Dame, and they're off again. So it's like by the time we get through this next 3-week run, we'll know. You know, that's season's on the line right here. So it's a big time for the Trojans for sure. Well, one last thing, Bud, here. If you were to look at that Week 7 schedule, just sort of from a college football playoff perspective, where are the gotta have it games? Which ones are the ones that you think hold the most CFP impact?
I mean, Bama, Missouri is a big one. If Missouri gets that one, I think you got to really start penciling in Missouri to the playoff, or at least really thinking about them.
Locked up for the playoff before you play a road game. What a life.
Yeah, dude. Seriously. I think it's somewhat important that Indiana does not get dump trucked by Oregon here. Like, I know they're a 10-point dog. If they lose by 17, whatever, it's at Eugene. But if they get crushed, which is possible, then that's probably trouble. Where else here? Kansas might be a little tricky for Texas Tech. Like Kansas has been playing some decent ball. They survived a weird spot at UCF over the weekend. Georgia's like a very short favorite at Auburn. If Georgia loses at Auburn, Georgia's not going to go to the playoff.
That was going to be my upon further review until you put 6 SEC teams into the playoff. I'm like, wait a second. I
can get 7 in.
The Georgia, I watched a lot of the Georgia game. This is not your same Georgia. Gunnar Stockton is becoming more of a liability. They don't have the defensive studs we've talked about before, like the Jordan Davis, the Jalen Carter, sort of those guys in the interior. I think the rest of the SEC has caught up with them, and several teams have passed them. And if you look at their schedule, I think there's a likelihood they're 9-3. And if they lose this weekend, which I don't think is crazy to say, they'll be 8-4. With Carson Beck, your old quarterback,
as
looking like the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
9-3, I think they're going to get in because they're going to play a likely, one-loss Georgia Tech team.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. You think they're going to beat them?
Yeah.
They're worse than they were last year. You know, they went to 1 billion overtimes with them last year.
That's fair.
And you're in the big body bends.
Georgia,
Isn't Georgia bad in the big body bends? Doesn't Georgia have some nightmares in that building? I know I was in there for one nightmare. It's called 2nd and 26.
Yeah, but it's only against Alabama. They kill everybody else in the dome, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody who works in, I don't know if he wants me to ID him. He works in the sport. He's like, hey, are we underestimating how much the rule against like the late line shifts are impacting Georgia's pass rush? Because like Damon Wilson at Missouri, at least I haven't checked it today, but like entering the weekend had more pressures than Georgia's entire D-line combined. Like was Georgia scheming up pressures in, like the last 2 years with some of that kind of, I know a lot of coaches thought it was kind of gamifying the thing, and that's why they put the rule in to stop it, because they were trying to basically induce false starts and protection busts, which lower scoring. And we already had scoring lowered with the new clock rule. So I think the league smartly said, that's not good for the entertainment product, just to try to induce a bunch of false starts, right? But is that hurting Georgia more than we realized?
Maybe. I haven't really thought about it.
I hadn't either. I just think that's a pretty good point. Like their pass rush has dropped off a cliff.
I'm not going to use that as my first, second, or third reason of what's wrong with Georgia, but it is
they
certainly
picked the wrong guys to hold on to for sure.
In a game that is decided on the margins, especially at that level, it's definitely a very interesting point to bring up. Arizona State at Utah obviously is big for the Big 12 race from a college football playoff perspective, and from a seeding perspective for the Big 12 champion. That's going to be another one to keep an eye on. A little late night action out in Salt Lake City in front of my favorite student section in America.
Did you mention South Florida at North Texas?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge game.
Huge game.